How to Solve Our Human Problems by Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. Why we get angry. To reduce and finally eradicate our anger, we need to tackle the problem from two sides. Firstly, we need to gain a clear recognition of the many faults of anger, as already explained. Identifying this poisonous delusion and not any external force as our true enemy. This recognition awakens within us an urgent desire to rid ourselves of anger as soon as possible. If we discovered that we had inadvertently swallowed poison, we would naturally develop an urgent wish to get rid of it, because we understand the harm that it will cause. Yet the inner poison of anger harms us far more than any physical poison, its venom reaching even into our future lives. So how much stronger should be our desire to eliminate it? Secondly, we need to gain a deep understanding of why we become angry, and then work to counteract and eliminate the causes we have uncovered. The root cause of anger, as of all other delusions, is our innate, self-grasping ignorance, the mistaken view that holds ourselves and all other phenomena to be inherently existent. Once we have cut through this ignorance, there will no longer be any basis in our mind for unhappiness, dissatisfaction, or any delusions. Self-grasping is a deeply entrenched habit of mind. To eradicate it completely, we need to develop a direct realization of emptiness, which is not something we can do overnight. There are, however, other more immediate causes of anger, and since these can be dealt with right away, it is worthwhile concentrating on them during the early stages of our practice. Anger is a response to feelings of unhappiness, which in turn arise whenever we meet with unpleasant circumstances. Whenever we are prevented from fulfilling our wishes or forced into a situation we dislike, in short, whenever we have to put up with something we would rather avoid, our uncontrolled mind reacts by immediately feeling unhappy. This uncomfortable feeling can easily turn into anger, and we become even more disturbed than before. It is a very useful exercise to examine the kinds of situation in which we get angry. We shall probably find that most of our anger arises when our desires are frustrated and we do not get what we want. For example, a man who very much wants to be with his lover will be extremely resentful of anyone or anything that prevents him from this. If his lover refuses to see him or leaves him for someone else, his unhappiness can easily turn into rage. It is essential that we learn new ways of relating to frustrations and disappointments. Since it is unreasonable to expect that we can fulfill all our wants and desires, we must cultivate a more realistic and balanced approach to them. The other main reason we become unhappy and angry is because we are faced with a situation we do not want or like. Every day we encounter hundreds of situations we do not like, from stubbing our toe to having a disagreement with our partner to discovering that our house has burnt down or we have cancer, and our normal reaction to all of these occurrences is to become unhappy and angry. However, try as we might, we cannot prevent unpleasant things happening to us. We cannot promise that for the rest of the day nothing bad will happen to us. We cannot even promise that we shall be alive to see the end of the day. In samsara, we are not in control of what happens to us. Since it is impossible to fulfill all our desires or to stop unwanted things happening to us, we need to find a different way of relating to frustrated desires and unwanted occurrences. We need to learn patient acceptance. Patience is a mind that is able to accept fully and happily whatever occurs. It is much more than just gritting our teeth and putting up with things. Being patient means to welcome wholeheartedly whatever arises, having given up the idea that things should be other than what they are. It is always possible to be patient. There is no situation so bad that it cannot be accepted patiently with an open, accommodating and peaceful heart. When patience is present in our mind, it is impossible for unhappy thoughts to gain a foothold. There are many examples of people who have managed to practice patience even in the most extreme circumstances, such as under torture or in the final ravages of cancer. Although their body was ruined beyond repair, deep down their mind remained at peace. By learning to accept the small difficulties and hardships that arise every day in the course of our lives, gradually our capacity for patient acceptance will increase, and we shall come to know for ourselves the freedom and joy that true patience brings. If we practice the patience of voluntarily accepting suffering, we can maintain a peaceful mind even when experiencing suffering and pain. If we maintain this peaceful and positive state of mind through the force of mindfulness, unhappy minds will have no opportunity to arise. On the other hand, if we allow ourselves to dwell on unhappy thoughts, there will be no way for us to prevent anger from arising. For this reason, Geshe Kelsang said, "Always rely upon a happy mind alone." As mentioned above, the main reason we become unhappy is because our wishes are not fulfilled or we have to deal with an unpleasant situation. However, as Shantideva says in Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, if something can be remedied, why be unhappy about it? And if there is no remedy for it, there is still no point in being unhappy. If there is a way to remedy an unpleasant, difficult situation, what point is there in being unhappy? On the other hand, it is completely impossible to remedy the situation or to fulfill our wishes. There is also no reason to get upset. For how will our becoming unhappy help? This line of reasoning is very useful, for we can apply it to any situation. Patient acceptance does not necessarily mean that we do not take practical steps to improve the situation. If it is possible to remedy the situation, then of course we should. But to do this, we do not need to become unhappy and impatient. For example, when we have a headache, there is no contradiction between practicing patience and taking a tablet. But until the tablet takes effect, we need to accept whatever discomfort we feel with a calm and patient mind. If instead of accepting our present pain, we become unhappy and fight against it, we shall just become tense, and as a result, it will take longer to get rid of our headache. For as long as we are in samsara, we cannot avoid unpleasant, difficult situations and a certain amount of physical discomfort. But by training our mind to look at frustrating situations in a more realistic manner, we can free ourselves from a lot of unnecessary mental suffering. There are innumerable occasions on which it is easy to develop an unhappy mind. When we ourselves, our family or our friends are mistreated, blamed, or experiencing any kind of misfortune, we normally react by becoming unhappy. We also become unhappy when our relationships are difficult, when we have financial or health problems, when we lose what is dear to us, when we are lonely or can never find the time to be alone, when we cannot find work or have too much work, when our dreams and wishes remain unfulfilled, or once fulfilled, leave us feeling hollow and dissatisfied, when we fail or when our success brings with it more stress than we can bear, or when people we dislike are successful. The list is endless. In all these situations, our unhappiness can easily lead to a feeling that life or other people are unfair to us, and this depresses us even more. Instead of reacting blindly through the force of emotional habit, we should examine whether it is helpful or realistic to become unhappy in such situations. We do not need to become unhappy just because things do not go our way. Although, until now, This has indeed been our reaction to difficulties. Once we recognise that it does not work, we are free to respond in a more realistic and constructive way. Patient acceptance is often thought to be a weak and passive response to problems we have neither the power nor the courage to solve. In reality, however, being patient is far from being passive. There is nothing strong or courageous in reacting to hardships or insults with anger. All we are doing is being defeated by our delusions. On the other hand, by standing up to our delusions and refusing to fall into our well-worn mental grooves of intolerance and non-acceptance, we are taking a very strong, active stance.